Man, we've got everybody here on time for I think the first time in probably over a year. Impressive. All right, so let's call this meeting of the Open Space Advisory Committee to order, August 8th, 2018. Just kind of go through and do roll call. Ken Lish, Chair.
Joel White, Committee Member.
Kevin France, Committee Member.
Ryan Welch, Vice Chair.
Kate Senecal, Committee Member.
Allison James, Staff Liaison.
Sandy Hammerly, Trustee Liaison in place of Mark Lasis.
Sandy, thank you very much. Appreciate you giving up your Wednesday night for us.
It's a pleasure.
I'm sure there's no other place you'd rather be.
It's better than being at work.
Hear, hear. So I'm not seeing any public, so no public comment. I think we should be able to do pretty good with our agenda this evening and not make it too long of a night. The first topic is a COSA conference. We put it out there for everybody who might want to volunteer. Kate was our only volunteer, so unless anybody throwing their name in right now, Kate, congratulations. Thank you. All right. Allison, do you want to just work with Kate to get her registered and get her all set up for it?
I will be emailing you.
Awesome.
And there's all kinds of fun stuff to do, like menu choices. all kinds of-
Wow, so special.
You get to select your sessions.
Cool.
And actually, the sooner you do it, the better, because some of the fun sessions do fill up
Okay.
very quickly.
And if there's sessions that you guys think, since I'm newer to the committee, that would be valuable for me to bring information back, that's fine too. You can
I mean,
dictate a little bit if you want.
I can help too.
Okay.
yeah. When I went, I mostly tried to look at open space acquisition stuff that might help us figure out paths forward, which is how Tracy came about last year with the Trust for Public Land.
Okay.
Anything we can do with introducing more wildlife or
Okay.
flora, fauna, everything.
Okay.
That was what I focused on, but there's a lot of interesting stuff, so if there's anything that piques your fancy, just go for it.
Awesome.
All right. Chili Fest. Forgot to write down the exact date.
It's the 8th.
The 8th of September this year.
I'm mostly sure.
Pretty sure that's right.
Yeah, I know that's right.
Perfect. So basically, I don't think we need to have everybody tell us whether they can make it right now, but keep it on your radar. Just like 4th of July, we'll have a booth again. We still have drinks and snacks from National Trails Day. I believe we still have some of our giveaways for the first aid kits.
Yeah. I think I took that all home last time.
Okay,
I'll check.
perfect.
I don't remember if I took it home from Trails Day or if I took it home from.
I was gonna say
4th of July.
I know I have some. I might have
Okay.
been the one who ended up with it. I can't remember. We'll make
It
sure
is the
that-
8th from 2 to 6.
Excellent. Yeah. So as we get closer, we're 1 month out on that.
So will we have one more meeting before then?
No. we
Nope.
won't.
This is it.
Okay. Yeah, I guess our next meeting would be the 12th then.
Yeah. So I won't be able to. I'm gonna have my own booth for campaigning, so I won't be available. But we'll send an email around to see who all can show up. And I think the same topics as last time.
Yeah.
Were pretty good. We talked about trails, talked about available open space. We had the maps out there that draws people in.
And we were going to possibly hand out packets for the cleanup event if
Mhm.
everybody's still interested
Yes.
in doing that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think we should do that.
I think it's a great idea.
Yep.
I will be there. I'll be at the beer fest a bit, so I prefer the first session. I think that's more appropriate. But I'm happy to come at the end. It might be interesting.
Make it more fun.
It might be trouble.
Cool. So as long as everyone's okay with that, we'll just circulate via email. That way we can all kind of look at our calendars.
Well, the other discussion that we had, and it was Kate's idea from 4th of July, should we also have sign up for the town
Listserv
emails?
and-
Yeah, the different emails.
Yeah, so Allison, were you there when we talked about that? I can't remember if Patrick was
I think
subbing
Patrick
for
was
that
here,
one.
yeah.
You know, if there's anything that you want me to have ready for you guys to pick up, I can just print out anything or, you know.
Well, so one thing that Kay was talking about was making it easy for people to sign up to get the e-blasts and everything. So whether, I don't know if it's possible to actually have, whether it's an iPad or a laptop, that people can just plain sign up right then and there, or whether it is just as basic as a piece of paper and some pens to sign up for. But anything just to, if we can prompt them when they come to the committee tent to say, hey, do you get the town e-blast or anything like that?
Does anybody still use QRD codes?
I don't.
Click and,
I think a lot of the time you have to have an app for it, don't you? And I think,
okay.
yeah,
All
yeah,
those things, yeah.
yeah.
I'm just curious, like, there another way where, you know, everybody has their.
Where you just send them to the website to sign up. That's not a bad idea, actually.
Or send them a text message, like have the link and then, or, I don't know. I was just trying to think of other ways too.
Yeah, whatever breaks down the most barriers to actually get them
Yeah.
to sign up.
Let me know and whatever I need to produce or.
I mean, honestly, if you guys have a computer or laptop or iPad, whatever, available, that people can just do it right then and there, that's probably easiest. That means we have to be careful and whatnot and don't want to damage the computer. Second easiest, though, is I think letting them sign up. I mean, if we say, here's the website, I think we'll get less of a response than if we let them sign up and then we plug them into the system.
Right.
Well, I
So-
turned my town iPad back in, so there's an iPad floating around. And I think that's a great idea. I mean, I love it, Kate, because a lot of people don't have it, and we ask them to sign up.
Yeah.
Would we,
So maybe that iPad that I turned back in would be available, and people
would we
could
be
go
able
right-
to have Wi-Fi to be able to do that, though? That's the only thing.
It has.
But from the,
Oh, 3G?
yeah.
I'm
from the-
pretty sure that the iPads, no, in fact, I know that the iPads can be used anywhere.
So, yeah,
They
same
have,
coverage then.
they have it, you know, the hotspot in them. Because
Nice.
I could use
Cool.
mine anywhere. I didn't have to be somewhere to pick up Wi-Fi.
Cool.
Is it just the listserv, or are there other mailings that we?
Well, I think the
people sign up
listserv,
for?
I mean, we could, there's the listserv, there's e-blasts, and is there another communication method people have to sign up for, or is it just those two if they want?
You know, I don't remember all
I think
that's
they can
available.
sign up for like agendas. I think there's a separate.
Okay. So I think we can make sure, if there's a way to do all three of those. So I guess, Allison, if you want to check to see if we can have access to want to bring it, and then just figure out how to make sure we have the pages available to let people sign up.
I mean, yeah, and even now, we can just make a spreadsheet, write in your email, put an X in which one you want.
Yeah, and that could be a lot easier rather than having people navigate to 3 different areas, since it's going to be 3. So maybe if we,
I mean, I'm happy to own putting the spreadsheet together. I might
Okay.
just need Allison's help on which ones are and what's available. I just don't remember them all.
Yeah, easy.
Cool.
I think it's all on one page, and usually I think you can tick a box for what you would like to
Well,
receive.
well, if it's that easy.
sweet. So then we can just make sure we have the right data fields in there so we can populate it for people later.
Yeah, I'll think about it and we'll figure out a way.
Okay.
I think that would be great for any town committee that's
Mhm.
going to
Yeah.
be at, because that, so often people say, oh, no, I'm not there, and then you hit them right then and there.
Oh,
So
yeah.
maybe suggest that to Patrick if Prostac's going to be there, and,
Oh, yeah. Well,
Caps
I'm
or
guessing we'll
whoever.
all be right next to each other, so.
yeah,
Yeah, we can have everyone
Yeah.
talk to it and have a master sign up or something.
yeah, that'd be great.
Great. Okay. Moving on rapidly tonight. So the next topic is budget. Normally, we would have had this conversation already, but we're kind of put it off because we already had Shan on the list for what we were interested in for a budget item for next year. Really, this is kind of our opportunity to talk about whether we want to have the town add any type of budget line for any type of project or anything that we're interested in. Just over the past year or two, Shan has really been the focal point of that to make sure that we got that moving. So that's all we've really focused on. But putting it back on the agenda just to see if anybody else has any preferences or other priorities.
Do we need to do anything to make sure Shan stays on the budget? I mean, it was there, but I assume it could move off. I mean, is that?
Anything could move off.
Well, that's the thing I'm saying. Should we reiterate that that's still our priority?
I think it's a good idea.
Do we need to make a recommendation for that? Or how does that work? I don't remember.
As long as we reflect it in our notes, I don't know that we necessarily need a formal recommendation. I don't know, does that work with everybody? Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
By Shan, you mean the funding for the trailhead?
Yes. Yes.
So one of the things that, we've talked about over the years that I don't really know where it stands is we've talked about Coal Creek corridor improvements and then how they relate to Parks 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something we would want to?
So I think the improvements have already been funded and done.
Okay, so they're already taken care of.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, the creek isn't done though.
No, but the improvements are being done.
I mean, it's in this year's budget, I thought, and I thought it was coming out of OSAC budget.
Yeah, the open space budget.
That's what I mean by
yeah.
that budget, yes.
Yep.
Thanks.
So yeah, it is coming out of there, and it is in this year's
Okay.
budget. That was part of when all the trees got cut down and everything, part of that project. Parks 1 and 2, I don't know, maybe Sandy, I know that we're still trying to figure out how to, where the money can come from for that one. That gets wrapped up into the
We know where it
developer.
should come from.
Yeah. There's some disagreement between the town and the developer about where the money comes from on that one, so.
Okay.
Sorry to back up, for Chili Fest,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Town 15 is going to come up. It's a hot topic in the community right now,
Yep.
Certainly.
to say the least. I don't know, I mean, should we be doing something to all be on the same page as OSAC versus a citizen? I mean, we have our recommendation, or not our recommendation, but our position from last time, and I think that's how we should be leading.
Agreed.
So maybe we just need to
Yeah.
print that out and have it there.
I mean, I think a unified message is always good.
Yeah.
As opposed to, 7 different messages depending on who's standing there.
Yeah. No, I think printing it out and having it there is a really good idea, whether it's for the people to read or just us for talking points. That'll help. I think the main thing to recommend to reiterate is, yes, this is number 4 on the open space summary recommendations report, something that we are interested in, and we put it forth to the board as it'd be good as open space. I have a feeling there might be people who ask about an equestrian center and how that came through, and Sean sent an email about that this past month. I have a email half response written to him. I don't know if that's something that we have actually talked about as a group to say whether we actually are behind the idea. I think we said yes, that fits within OSAC's mission and goals. I mean, have we actually had enough of a conversation to say this is something that OSAC supports and recommends that actually is in there?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of view it as one of the possibilities
Yeah.
of use, but I don't know that we've, especially with at least, we've got 3 new committee members in the last, 3 months.
Mhm.
I think it's always a good time to go back and see what the current committee thinks.
Yeah.
I mean,
My biggest concern is open space, to make a recommendation to keep something as open space is one thing,
Mhm.
but to do an active use like an equestrian center, I would have such a hard time saying yes as a committee, let's do that, until we hear public feedback and actually do a little bit
Right.
of work on that.
Right.
Yep.
That's the one comment I would make is before you go with an active use, which is different than
Yeah.
open space, you probably should consider some public engagement.
Yeah, and again, I guess my position is Sandy's, we haven't heard that from the board that they'd like us to do any of that, so that's not something I feel like we should be taking on, especially because now that there's a actual proposal on the table in front of you guys. So,
But my impression from our discussion at the last meeting was that we liked the idea of an equestrian center, but it wasn't clear that, to me, that it was the recommendation that we, for that particular parcel of land.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think as long as, if we get questions about that, that we're at least clear on it's a possibility, but not something we're fully behind, and we think public engagement is absolutely necessary before it's even really considered, is important.
Yeah, maybe we, like, as we build out the piece for our response to Town 15, maybe you can kind of wordsmith some responses to, you know, some of the common questions we think might come up. Just so we kind of
Mhm.
have a common theme
Mhm.
around. It's one of the things that's being presented, but it's currently not, for sale, or it's not, been taken to public input, and so that, nothing official is happening. Just
Yeah.
things like that, so that we can all, like I said, again, convey the similar message to everybody that comes to talk to you. Because I agree, I think it's been a very hot topic.
Oh, yeah.
And is there value in sharing kind of those talking points with ProSAC too, so that, not that they necessarily have to be on the same page, but just so that they know that these are things that we're anticipating? And I think a lot of people confuse what this committee does versus what they do. So
Yeah.
that might be something, if it's okay to share, we might want to share.
Well, we can, it's on the board's
Okay.
agenda for the consent agenda on Monday, so it's out there in the public. Allison, did ProStack end up talking about Town 15 and what their position was at their last meeting? Did that ever end up happening, do you know?
Not that I know of. I'm trying to think. Did I cover? I think I covered that meeting, and I don't think there was anything.
Okay.
Do we have any response or thoughts about the survey that Tracy circulated? I understand it was not an official, but the results were, I felt, kind of striking.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, even if it was a biased survey, it wasn't biased that much.
Yeah. I mean, every survey is going to be biased
Well,
somehow or another,
yeah,
so
right.
yeah.
But-
I think because it wasn't a town survey, I don't know, I have a hard time seeing if we could actually create a position. But I feel like that's one that's close enough that if you wanted to say, I have a personal opinion, if you want to hear my personal opinion, but
Yeah.
Well, and I think we could also say there's a resident that did a town survey. If you wanted to talk to him, by all means you could,
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
without taking a stance.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm a little nervous making it sound like it's an OSAC position.
Absolutely, right.
So, I mean, I did think the data was pretty interesting, and I found that the resident was did a great job of being welcoming of criticism and trying to figure out how to improve it rather than just defending a position. So I thought the whole process actually was pretty good.
Yeah. Especially the amount of time that I'm sure went into that.
Man. Anyway, thanks. Sorry for
No.
going back to that.
Yeah, that's good. So I guess we're good with just kind of adding the Shan Shan Trailhead as a budget recommendation this year.
What about fast track trails? I mean, we've had this list of trails that we wanted to try to accelerate. Should those be considered for 2019? I mean, we've got some of the things, I mean, that are kind of happening with other construction. So I think that list might need a little bit of refining, but that's something that's come up as a budget item in past.
Yeah, and I think, man, Allison, do we have available the list, the OSAC, ProStack ranking from this year? I want to say that if we were going to make any trail recommendations for this year, and we're going to try to use this year's list as a basis, I think basically the top 6 or 7 were either being built by contractors or by developers, or are being built right now as part of the repaving project, or were Shan Shan.
Okay.
But I don't want to lie, so.
Look at that.
Perfect. Thank
Awesome.
you. Look at that. I think that there might be one. I think the one along McCaslin on the south side of town, into the Calmonte,
Right.
into Calmonte from like up on the hill.
Right.
That might be the only one left.
Yeah, so town center connections, so those are just kind of ongoing that we'll all be keeping our eye on. Extend the soft surface trail connection along west side of McCaslin from Rock Creek neighborhood trail connection by Key Building. So that's being built right now as
Right.
part of the repaving project. Connection to Davidson Mesa underpass, that is fully outside the control of, I mean, that has CDOT that has to be involved. Louisville has to be involved. So, I mean, I know that that's been brought up to both the board's attention. I know Alex's group.
That's going on now.
A
Moving forward or discussions or?
are you talking about the trail that will connect RTD up to the? Yeah, so we do have a connection that's going. This is going to take the RTD station up to Davidson Mesa. I think this one, if we look at it on the map, is some type of safe crossing of Marshall Road.
Across the street.
Yeah, that's kind of been the concern since it's on that corner, and I think the speed limit's like 55. Or,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
55 there on a turn.
It's 55
Blind turn,
on
yeah.
Marshall Road?
Yeah.
Right when you get up that hill, it turns to 55.
I thought it was
Yep.
45.
Mm-mm.
It's one.
Yeah.
Once you leave Superior is when it's actually, like, that's
Yeah.
when it hits the 55,
Yeah.
I think.
So you could have done it right as you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I know that's been on our list. That's been on ProStack's list. I remember Alex talking about it when he was talking about infrastructure improvement projects this past year. So I know it's ever on everybody's radar. I just think it's a lot of moving parts. The Singletree to Coal Creek Regional.
I know, I always forget that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say I
Yeah.
don't remember. Allison, is the map over here as well?
I can
So
look it
Coal
up
Creek
real quick.
Regional is here, and then
Yeah.
Singletree is, you're coming out like
Let's see.
at Third and
Map 10.
Depot, I believe is the street.
So this is
Oh,
the one.
This is the one through Rogers Farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had talked about this one in the past, and where we had landed is it's right next to Rogers Farm, and that would be a great one to get the developer to actually build for us. That way, it didn't have to get built out of open space or any other type of town money. And I think that's basically where it stood.
That's my recollection.
And
Yep.
when we had that talk, that was also when the Rogers Farms concept plans were coming forward. So I think everybody thought development was a lot more imminent than it is. I think I'd still land on that rather than trying to spend town money since it could be in the not too distant future.
Well, I mean, it's certainly hard to make any recommendation when we have no
Well,
idea.
there's a mouse.
Yeah.
We got a mouse in here.
Don't come this way.
Sorry, public comments closed.
Yeah.
He's far away, so.
We'll watch for you.
Yeah.
We
So-
all have microphones, so we don't have to go that way.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joel, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Quite okay.
Scared him when
I mean, I think Rogers Farm is a moving target in anything I can't imagine getting any traction with it. I mean, one, it's private land right now, so we'd have to have some sort of easement. And-
Yeah.
And why in the world would they do that if they're looking at, future development plans?
Yeah. Well, and if I were the board and they got this recommendation from us, my first question is it really worth spending the money to get this in maybe 2 or 3 years sooner than if we just waited
Yeah.
and had somebody build it for us?
I mean, the only one to me that's interesting is the one, again, down like from the other side of McCaslin. Further up.
By
I think
Colton?
Trail 1 maybe, or
Up here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
1. Hard part there is the Calmonte stuff is still getting put in, so it's not sure where it would connect that final little piece.
Yeah, and Allison, I don't know if you have additional background on it. I remember Patrick at one point told us that.
Listen, he's going your way. He's right there. He's gonna be right in your lap.
I should have worn closed-toe shoes tonight.
Yeah. Anyway, I remember Patrick saying at one point that we would need to actually build a bridge with this trail, and that
Well, either it would be an on-road, you know, because of the large ravine.
Yeah.
There
Um,
would be a little bridge, or it would have to go onto the road on the, there is a bike lane.
Yeah. And the last I heard, I mean, I don't know if a solution was ever developed. The last I heard was Patrick said you guys were all looking at different alternate alignments and whether anything ever made sense.
I can check on that.
Yeah, because there is a little ravine and there's actually a little Jeep road. And one alignment
Mhm.
was to actually go down that into the backside of Calmonte.
Right.
Yeah, I remember Patrick saying going through like Calmonte Canyon or
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of a cool trail.
yeah. I remember there were ADA concerns, but
But sidewalk will go all the way up to where number 1 is pointing, right on that road
Yep.
that goes in there. And actually, I think the sidewalk is actually already in, right
It's pretty
on
much poured, yeah.
McCaslin. Yeah.
I mean, they're building actively in that area.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think the sidewalk's already in.
Yeah, I paid attention when I drove here, and it was already there.
it was
A nice wide sidewalk along there.
nice.
And the developer is also building a trail, I think that's gonna connect the one that's there that you noticed recently from, an interior road also.
So into what's being built right now.
That, it's like a little, a curve, kind of towards the back of that person, the east coast area.
Okay. So whether we want to make a recommendation about it tonight without knowing what a possible alignment is, I think makes it a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
On the other hand, all that connectivity might be done this year in there. So maybe a recommendation to, or maybe that if any trail was going to be built, we would recommend that be in the budget.
That'd be this number 1 trail that adds the further connection.
So,
Another thought.
go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, no, that would, sorry, I'm done.
Oh, well, I was gonna say, 1 is all the way from where we see that kind of faint road all the way up to the entrance up there, right? That's that entire trail, right?
Yes, and
Okay.
I believe it also includes that little piece right there.
Up to the
And-
fire station park or?
Yeah, so and right now a concrete trail does come all the way to here and dies, so it's just connecting to the rest of that trail.
Okay,
And then number 7 is that
yeah.
completely unique one that would actually definitely need probably a little bit more public input. I mean, we did it once, but
Yeah.
it's been off the radar for so long that I think we'd have to bring it back up again. But it would actually stop like right here instead of going all the way out to Indiana.
Is the part of the trail by Calmonte, is that the developer's responsibility, or is that us, or?
Like number 22, like this piece
Yeah.
right here.
Right, all,
That's
all the way through what's being developed now?
all developer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the hard part is, I think ideally you'd like to have a way to connect right to the roundabout without needing to go so far east.
Mm-hmm.
So that would also be something to consider in the design. But maybe you're not going that far east.
Have we looked at the sidewalk that they're building? Is it more direct than this, or does it actually
No, it
follow?
looks just
Yeah.
like that,
It does.
actually, it does.
I think they did it because there's that underpass
Yeah.
that goes underneath Colton, and then,
And there the
Well,
existing
there's a
one.
bridge on McCaslin there, so putting something right where it starts to turn east, there is it would be difficult to build a trail there. So, I don't know, I could see waiting another year, but
Yeah. I mean, the fact that there's actually connectivity here, in my mind, means that we'd want to add this piece first.
yeah.
So yeah, I think we can say yes, Shan's still a priority, and then also if we are going to construct any trails, this number 1 trail. So let's pull it back.
The way it looks now, the part that goes right along McCaslin is really wide. And then when it starts to make that turn to the east, it looks like the sidewalk really narrows down
Right here?
to more. Yeah.
Hmm.
I'll have to go check it out.
There is significant slope there. I
Yeah.
looked
this back up.
So it's number
So it's number,
7.
yeah, number 7 is the
Row
one
7.
we're talking about.
Yeah.
Or, yeah. And then, what was number 22? Trail on west side of Calmonte along, oh, and that's the one that the developer
done.
is, that we were just talking about, the developer's finishing. So really, like, the only one that honestly does actually make sense to construct, if you're going from the top down, is this one. And then after that, we hit Shan Shan. So I think it absolutely makes sense to have those two as what our preferences are. And I completely forgot to see if anyone's taking notes. Are you taking notes right now?
Yep.
Sorry.
I'm on it. No worries.
Sorry about
I'm
that.
on it. I'm here for you, Ken.
It's only been a year. At some point, I'll remember to start asking people to take notes beforehand.
Did we say just number 1, or did we have 2 of them on there?
Well, it's 1 and 21.
Yeah, 1 and
really.
21. So,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah,
21
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
Shan
yeah,
Shan.
yeah, okay.
You guys have a new mascot here. It's
It might be a Preble mouse. You got to be careful.
exactly.
There he goes. He's so tiny. He just got a tail. His tail.
The bigger one that's still under there.
Construction being done to this building, so I'm sorry about the friend.
It's all right. All right, so
Space.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's our Preble Mouse mascot. So are we good with these two for our budget recommendations then?
Yeah, I think so.
Perfect.
Can you remind me where Coyote Ridge is?
Yes. It's up on top of the mesa, like
Yeah. So it's the one that's.
a little.
Did I? Here, let me.
Yeah, you're too far.
18, you're right there.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's basically in this region.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the town owns that little part where 18 is, and then it turns into level 3 south of that.
Okay, and
Yeah.
gotcha.
And I think the main issue is right when you come up the sidewalk to the south side there, to get up on the trail, the dirt trail up there, it's basically just straight up.
Yeah.
And they want to just make it a lot gentler to be able to get up
Yeah.
to those trails.
Yeah, it's straight up a
You
like
can kinda
dirt
see where
berm.
they are,
It's-
yeah.
It's a social trail that's been created.
Mhm.
Yeah. And there was again a little bit of citizen pushback on that one, and I think that's probably why it hasn't really moved yet. Just because they're afraid that a trail coming down like that would look into their house and whatnot.
It already does, but
Yeah.
Exactly.
an official trail.
Yeah. A town-sponsored trail. All right. Do you guys have any other comments, questions about it? All right. Well, I'll have this reflected in our notes.
It is.
Matt's office.
Yeah. Just ushering right out the door.
Let me go to Matt's office.
Uh, All right, so the next item on the list is the town cleanup event. So Allison, is there anything, since it's kind of being centralized across multiple fronts, is there anything you need from us?
I was just going to give you a quick update. So I
Awesome.
met with Katie Rummel, our event and volunteer supervisor, and Kevin, our volunteer program specialist. And one of the things that we talked about was, I think we called it the Great Superior Cleanup.
Mm-hmm.
And since we are combining it with National Day of Service, we were talking about like marketing and trying to be consistent. And one of the things we thought of was maybe calling it National Weekend of Service. So then it wasn't just a day and it wasn't just a cleanup. How do you guys feel about that?
I think that's fine. I think it needed rebranding anyway. I think
And that
I've-
was something we talked about.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then we're still all in agreement on the weekend of September 22nd. Okay. And we'll do the handout supplies at Chili Fest.
Yep.
And town hall and the delivery option still was what the group was interested in. And
Yeah.
Kevin and Katie also said that we're gonna also use the volunteer base that we have
Oh,
to
cool.
enhance our offering. And one of the things we talked about is we also have a Keep It Clean partnership.
Mhm.
And part of that also has like a water cleanup requirement. And so we're gonna try to maybe 2 areas, maybe community park, and have a specific spot where people would be able to leave bags of garbage near the creek. And then maybe another one at Grasso. You know, just sites where we could pick up what's left. And,
Yeah.
So that was 2 things we need to add. And then,
Remind me where Grasso is?
Grasso's the
behind
one right
you.
here,
Okay.
right on the, between Town Hall and the creek, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm assuming we would still use our Google Forms, which I sent you that link to from last year.
Yep. Is that something that you guys would maintain and operate this year, or did you want us to take the lead on operating that again, since it's a
Well-
bigger offering?
We could do it either way, but if the group is still gonna deliver, it might be easier for you to manage it.
Yeah, that's fine. I just
Because
didn't know
then
if
you
you
could
guys
split
had
it up.
other, are you having people sign up for the other events as well? Or is there?
Well, what we would do is we could e-blast all of our members, like in our volunteer base,
Mhm.
the, you know, kind of our marketing blurb that we'll send out to the general public, and have that form, and maybe tweak it a little bit to be, hey, here's another great volunteer opportunity, you know, we know you're a great volunteer, and then have them go to your form.
Okay, so for the day of service stuff that like Pro Staff is doing, is that gonna require any sign up, or that's just people show up?
Well, it depends.
I was just thinking, if we're gonna have people are gonna have to sign up for multiple things, then it should just
Right.
be one sign up form.
So
rather
was
than-
ProStack doing a Coyote Ridge?
That's what I thought, but I can't guarantee that.
Okay, I'll check into that.
I mean, I
A
think
lot of times, we also have a business that'll sign up for National Day of Service, for example. So we'll have a construction company, or we'll have a local
Oh,
business
cool.
that says, hey, I have 20 people, where do you want us? And a lot of times for National Day of Service, we do a waterway cleanup project, because then it helps with our certification for the Keep It Clean partnership.
Yeah.
So since we're trying to kind of combine it all together, it's just kind of what shakes out as that event gets a little closer.
Okay. Well, once it's identified, if other, like ProStack's event or any other thing that's being combined with this weekend of service,
Okay.
if we need to have different signups, let's figure out a way just to combine it all into one. That way, I mean, if people have to go to 2 different websites to sign up for things, I think
Oh,
we'll
no,
lose
yeah,
people.
totally.
Yeah.
And what we could do is we could just give options, like, would you like to do a waterway?
Yeah.
Would you like to do an X and a Y? And one thing about the Keep It Clean partnership that we also have to be mindful about is we typically try to keep track of how much. Remember
Yep.
last year?
Yeah.
So,
And we had people estimate. We estimated more than 100 pounds picked up.
and the pictures are super cool, because then we can put them in the newsletter.
Yeah.
Is there any value in connecting with the schools on this and doing some sort of like like class incentive, that if you have, 50% of your students that actually participate, I don't know.
So
Just-
I know Kevin is gonna reach out to the schools about the event, but we did not talk about an incentive. Is that something the group is interested in sponsoring?
We could. I don't know what our OSAC budget looks like right now. See if we're over our 5,000 yet. And
We have $1,575.71,
remaining.
but COSA.
I say, in COSA, roughly 500. Is that too much? Is it too little? I can't
No,
remember.
I think it was around, I wanna say 650-ish.
So,
So $1,000 left.
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
Pizza party, or I don't know.
Pizza party?
that would be
I mean, those are
awesome.
not that expensive, and
You know, the
I mean, we have a,
relative size of the classes, like if it's 30 kids? or
probably, if
something?
it's
30.
elementary, it's gonna be like
Superior is
25
30,
max.
Yeah.
Mostly 30,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if we can do something where they somehow track how many kids went and did it, and whichever class has the most kids that did it, we could certainly sponsor a pizza party for them.
I think that's cool.
I can, my wife's on the PTA at Superior, so we could get that into those newsletters. I don't know if that's, if Kevin, that might be, I don't know if I need to coordinate with Kevin on that, or,
Yeah, and he was thinking Friday folder insert.
oh,
Ooh,
perfect.
nice.
That's all, yeah, okay. But if we just let him know that we're willing to sponsor,
I can let them know.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Cool.
think that's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Put that in there. I don't know how they would track that, but however they end up tracking it and decide how to do
Just
it.
on there, I mean,
Yeah. Whoever wins.
Yeah. yeah, or whichever grade at the two schools has the most, then they would do it, or
Yeah.
something like that, maybe.
I mean,
Or take a picture
Yeah.
of the kids. Yeah, and then we
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
have the picture of the winner, and I think that's a great idea.
I also
yeah.
think it's important to make sure that the teachers know that they're not responsible for it. Because if they don't live here, they're not required to come here for it. But they, just to incentivize it for their students and let them know that that's something awesome to do in your community.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a big piece. Just don't put it on them.
Exactly.
Well, we could give you your email as the picture from each teacher, and they can send you the pictures from each of their classes.
That works. All for that.
Man, awesome. This is gonna be great. Okay, cool. So I guess Allison, just get back to me about whether we'll use the Google form or if we have too many sign-up things, whether we'll figure out a different solution. But yeah, we'll make that work. Cool. All right, so our last primary agenda item, this is our open space and trail naming project. This is something that we added to our amended work plan this year. It's something that's kind of been on the radar for a few years now, but never really got off the ground. And the board gave us the thumbs up to actually kind of pull together an idea and start figuring something out. So we literally have a clean slate here. It can go any direction we want.
I could tell you what traditionally has been done
Okay?
for these circumstances, especially for naming, like the trailhead, for example, if that's the first one that the group wanted to attack. Residents submitted name ideas with an explanation on why it is the best name for the amenity, such as a park. And we used a SurveyMonkey document with, just a little questionnaire. And then the entire list was given to the board, and the committee that was associated with the project reviewed the names and recommended top choices.
I mean, it seems like a good approach. I think Tracy sent some information out about this as well that she got from somebody over at COSA, and I think they tried really hard to also get the kids involved from the local schools. I think that'd be awesome as well. Maybe that's another thing that we can somehow get reached out to them. They have naming ideas and get that into the Friday folder and see if they want to submit. I mean, again, that could just be something that they send home with their parents and doesn't have to go on the teachers, make everyone's life easy, but does a good job to try to get kids involved.
And I think there was some process involved in the school for wildflower park, I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
I seem to recall some
Yeah.
teachers.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we communicated with the principal and asked the principal if she wanted to talk with any of the classes. And we did get a significant number of recommendations from the kids at El Dorado K-8.
Awesome. Okay. I think whether the first thing that gets named, I think we need to coordinate with the Historical Commission. Sounds like they are already talking about names for the Shan Shan Trailhead.
Was it historical or was it CAPS?
No, it was Historical Commission.
Okay.
Yeah. Trustee Dozell mentioned that at, I think it was the last board meeting or the board meeting before that. So if we do more of a historical name for Shan Shan, which might make sense given the area, I guess we would have to come up with an idea for where the first area we'd want to do the naming project on. Too far. I mean, when this was initially added to the work plan, the idea was that we have different trails and different open spaces throughout that just don't have any names associated with it. And at the time, Town 15 was talked about as well, and I think that's a little bit different at this moment, so we wouldn't be trying to name that one. But Shan Shan was definitely discussed.
Do we also need to identify all the things that we want to name?
I think
Seems like that's another piece of this.
I mean, that might be a good first step to identify everything that we think might be might need a name or might deserve a name, and then go from there and rank, order what to name, and just go down the naming process from there. Rather than putting everybody on the spot tonight, would it be useful if we just circulate this map to everybody and let everyone kind of think about it and kind of look at each area and come up with our own decisions about whether we think a name is appropriate or not, or whether it's fine just leaving different things nameless?
So, do you mean are we specifically talking about trails that are potential trails, or going back and picking up things that just don't have names right now?
Could be either or. So
Okay.
picking up things that don't have names right now, or things in the future. I mean, for instance, like right now, the trail that was recently built, the trail to nowhere, basically,
Tract
over
H.
here, that's just called Tract H. That's probably not the best name for a trail, just because that was what it was called back in the designs. So we'll have Tract A and Tract H, and we'll eventually turn into something. So in the end, is it worth it just to leave this nameless, or are we going to actually, does it make sense to add a name to it? And I think the reason why all of this came up was Louisville's open space committee came over here, and they did a big wayfinding project, like over $1 million worth of effort into it. And really, they found that adding names to things and helping people navigate through town ended up being a huge benefit, and that was the immediate thing that jumped out at us. We don't have names on our paths or on our trails. We have the Coal Creek Trail, but I mean, that's basically it. So,
Yeah. I mean, there's good signage now on the 36 pathway,
yep.
but it's pretty sparse signage, like coming off of Mayhoff or Singletree or some of those to get through town to the Coal Creek.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like the direction. I'm kind of at a loss as to what, other than Shan Shan, we would name. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, there's not a lot that jumps out at me, but I'd certainly be interested to hear what everybody else has as suggestions, which, you know, kind of lends itself to the offline. Let's throw it, you know, something out there, and maybe it spurs some thought or process from the rest of us.
Well, the only thing that same thought came to my mind as I was looking at it. I'm not sure what makes sense. Thinking back to what Louisville showed us, they had some contiguous trails that go all the way through that they named that actually show like going all the way through town. So,
Mhm.
I mean, that basically would turn this into a wayfinding project as well, and we would actually plot out paths from specific areas. And let's say that the path has like a green we put a green theme on it, then you see, like, every time you hit an intersection, you have an arrow showing that the green path continues,
Yep.
or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, my first thought on here, the two things that I think, trail-wise, I mean, Shan, I think, is assumed we would have some sort of naming with it, but, the path through Community Park that goes up, over eventually to 36 Bikeway near Flatirons Mall, and then things with Coal Creek Regional Trail, but Coal Creek already has a
Yeah.
name, so, is Community Park Path, I mean, that's not the name I've ever heard anybody call that, but that one to me is the major contiguous trail through the town. I
Yeah.
mean, we don't have anything north-south that's really constant and direct. That's the one trail that kind of stands out to me as a way to traverse town one direction to the other.
Yeah.
But there's some though. I mean, coming off of there up to Superior Elementary, and then right in that, due west to that green space, and I don't know, like that whole stretch off there's a couple offshoots off of McCaslin that go down to 88th. I mean, there's.
I mean, are those like?
They're not major through.
Yeah, I guess, and I don't know if we should differentiate, but in my head, I differentiate some of those with neighborhood trails and town trails. Like, there's a nice path that I take all the time from the Purple Park to my house, but it's just a neighborhood trail that goes behind the houses and doesn't really have, a through value.
But it could be fun to name them.
I think, like, I keep thinking about the kids and biking to school or walking to school, as they get old enough to be able to do so, it's just gonna be easier for families to allow their kids to go on the paths when they actually have specific directions on how they can go from their home to Superior or El Dorado. I mean, right now, with my 6-year-old, we talk about, okay, this path, you're gonna go this direction, but there's no name. And if it had a name, all of that whole process would be a lot clearer for both her and I.
Yeah.
Just a comment, this is a project you might want to try and work with ProStack on. Wayfinding signage throughout the town of Superior has been on the priority list of ProStack for some time, but they have no budget.
Yeah.
You guys are fortunate, you have a little bit more budget that you might be able to work with. So this might be a great opportunity for the two of you to work together on this, because I know this has been a concern for ProStack also.
And it was on Planning Commission's work plan for a few years as well.
I believe that is correct. So, it might be something that if the three committees come together on it and say, hey, we feel like this is a pretty important priority, the three of you working together, it might be something that the board would go, hey, yep, we can't name every little trail, but there are some priority trails that we feel like we should name. So I'm glad to see you guys working on it, and I think there's an opportunity for the three, at least two, maybe three committees to work together on it.
Yeah. Planning Commission might be swamped with Northwest Area Plan.
Yeah, they might, but I'm just saying, I think there's some.
Oh, yeah.
They've done something.
Yeah.
But I also think, with all the things that are happening, across the street with Town Center and the connections in and out, it's probably a great time to start thinking about it. I mean, I like
Absolutely.
the idea of the blue trail or the green trail, or, some way that we could kind of divide up trails, whether they're north-south or east-west, so that you could,
Yeah.
maybe their colors one way and, dates the other way, or, some other differentiating factor where you could kind of know if you're going, north-south through town or east-west or some combination of the two. I mean, I like that idea of being able to say, take the green trail to the purple trail, and then when you hit that, you go to orange. And I think that's a lot easier than, go up to Indiana and Pitkin and then turn right and then take the trail between the two houses,
They also did spines, so I think, from what I remember, the spines had the colors, and they were the main thoroughfares to get you, like you were saying, east and west, or north and south.
Yeah.
My question becomes, is the wayfinding project different than the open space trail naming project? It seems like it's part of it. It seems like it's a precursor to the wayfinding, but it sounds like we're getting more into the wayfinding,
Yeah.
which isn't really on our work plan.
I think we removed it this year for the first time in
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 years.
So, I mean, I think my recommendation might be let's work with those guys for making sure we all have it on our work plans next year, and maybe that's a
Yep.
way to force the issue next year
Mhm.
with the
That's a good
wayfinding.
idea.
You know, I don't know if we should maybe put that back up as a budget item, since we're kind of coming back around into hearing that there isn't budget for it. I don't know where we would put that in the budget, so that's something we could discuss. But I do think, though, we might as well start the process for Shan Shan and Tract A and H, since that is more of a park-ish area than just a trail. And we can work through the process then also, and
Yeah.
then be ready to go with these other things.
Okay, I think that makes sense. I almost feel like trying to include in a budget's a little premature this year. I would love if we could actually sit down with the other committees and like figure out a path forward and say, we're looking for a consultant to come here and give us answers A, B, C, and D, and then help us plot or whatever it is. But
Well, we need to have our leadership meeting with ProStack. This should be a topic.
yeah. Man, the more I hear it, I mean, this area lends itself perfectly going through Circle Park, connecting
Mhm.
so many different areas, and I mean, there's up through this region, you've got that trail that comes down kind of in between the houses. If I mean, great way to help navigate kids. So I guess right now we'll focus on naming for Shan Shan and Tract H, and we'll bring it up with the ProStack leadership when we have our leadership meeting.
So, and about the budget, I mean, we're in August. At what point do we have to finalize our 2019 budget? I mean, could we, if you guys meet with ProStack leadership and we think, yeah, that's something we want to at least explore in 2019, I mean, can we add that in November? Or at what point are we locked down from adding budget items?
We're pretty far down the road right now.
Can I ask a related question? Does the town run on the fiscal year, or is it run on calendar year?
The calendar year is the fiscal year for
Okay.
the town.
Okay, for the
The
town.
town's fiscal year is the
Is the
calendar.
calendar.
God, sorry. Yeah.
The board is scheduled to start working on the budget in September, probably be October. But we will have to move forward relatively quickly because we'll have to do it with this board before the new board gets elected. So that's why we would need your my recommendation would be maybe on this project, look for 2019. Unless there are, like Shan Shan certainly makes sense. We need to start dealing with that issue. But, the board can also, if you were to come back in, August, and we can always add things to the budget. The budget is it's a target. And so if there was a priority that we needed to spend the money to get this done in 2019, we could do it.
Okay, that's kind of what I was asking
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
can we start down the path and start working with the other groups and seeing kind of what, our momentum on it would be, and then go back and, add into the budget. I mean, in the business world, we do that all the time, but I wasn't sure what kind of leeway we had in a, city government type of thing.
Yeah, and Parks and Rec has some discretionary budget also. For example, they were able to do the additional skate park
Mhm.
up at the South Pool that we had not planned on, but they had some discretionary money that they were able to work with. So there are
Okay.
opportunities to do it if we really needed to.
Yeah. And I imagine the first round will be kind of a design, maybe community feedback type work with the consultant that wouldn't be overly expensive. And then if we got to the point that, yeah, we were actually going to put up signs and actually do the wayfinding piece, that could be ready, and we could have a budget recommendation for 2020
Yeah,
to actually get that in. This would probably be a little bit more hefty.
I like that approach.
All right. Awesome. I think we're good on this topic then. Okay, updates and look ahead. Allison, do you have any update for your work with Trust for Public Land?
I do. Staff and the manager met with Justin Spring, who presented to us the Colorado Director of Land Protection for the Trust for Public Land. And if a property, the outcome of the meeting was basically if a property does become available and it makes sense at that time to work together, then we will.
So I think one of the things they had mentioned was that they can help approach landowners that don't have things up for sale yet. Was that discussed at all, and whether they can like approach, just using an example, let's say CenturyLink, and be a facilitator? I mean, I know we approach them all the time and we've had discussions, but just.
Yes, that topic definitely was discussed and would probably be fleshed out sometime in the future.
Okay. Is he gonna do a presentation for the board as a whole, or is it just gonna stop at this level right now?
I'm not aware of a presentation before the board yet, but something may come about, if things get more fleshed out.
Okay. So it sounds like there's not really a path forward, but if something comes up, then a path forward may be devised.
Correct.
Okay. So from an OSAC perspective, there's nothing we can really do at this point, just kind of us sit around and, I mean, it's off our plate and nothing we can push for further.
Right, but the opportunity is there, and those discussions were had, and as soon as something does come up, that relationship has started to be formed.
Okay. Is it useful, or would it be useful to continue to make these types of relationships with other similar organizations?
I think it's useful, and I think that it was a really good step forward, that the parties were able to get together and learn more about the mission and the opportunities from this organization. And it is part of in the work plan. So, I think so.
Okay. So Kate, maybe when you're at COSA, if there's additional not-for-profits or anything that have similar missions, if you want to bring those back and see if it makes sense. All right. Allison, you guys have an update on the Hodgson-Harris Reservoir Ecological Study?
I do. The study is in progress, and that, if you recall, when we did our creek walk with ERO Clint Hinkie, it was the person that we typically use, and he's going to be doing that.
Awesome. Any idea, is there an expected completion date on that or anything?
I don't have anything yet,
Okay.
but I'll let you know as soon as I do.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's great.
Allison, do you guys have any updates from our recommendation from last month on the 76th Street properties?
Yes, my understanding is that staff asked that the management of the office for the property reach out to the owner, and there has been no response yet.
Oh, okay. But it is movement. That's awesome. So Shan Shan Trailhead, I think do you have an update?
I do. We have a meeting with Boulder County POSAC.
Oh, it has been scheduled.
That's scheduled, and we'll be doing, we have a cover memo and design that'll be going before that committee, and it's on the 23rd of this month at 6:30. And if anybody's interested in coming, let me know. It's at the Boulder County Courthouse in the Commissioner's Hearing Room. The 8/23.
What day is the 23rd? So Thursday. Okay.
And just let me know, and I can, if you want to speak or anything, just shoot me an email.
I think that'd be great. If one or some of us can go, I'll have to go home and look at my calendar to see if I'm available, but any support that we can also give to staff, I think helps make the case that much stronger. So that would be awesome.
Let's circulate an email.
Yeah, let's email on that one as well. We'll add that to the Chili Fest email.
And we did do a couple of small revisions to our plan that were requested by Boulder County, and that was adding a cattle gate and a gate, for an entrance from the parking lot, which is normal,
Yeah.
kind of like they all are. And just showing, because I don't think that they were aware that there were already 2 lines of barbed wire fence on either side of our property. And, just showing how that would flow, and that there were already agricultural fencing, barbed wire for, the cattle grazing that are sometimes in that area.
Awesome. Thank you. Next update is the status of the Anderson property. That is going in front of the board for the second time this upcoming Monday. At the first reading of it, our recommendations weren't included in the staff memo, nor were pro stacks, but I'm not sure that really would have mattered because traffic was basically the only thing discussed that evening, and traffic impacts. So I'm guessing, and I'm sure Stephen will include it in the staff memo. Actually, staff memo's already out. I'll have to take a look at it, but I'm guessing that will be more pertinent at the discussion this upcoming time around. So we'll have another update on whether the board incorporated any of our recommendations after Monday's meeting. Allison or Sandy, do you guys have any other? Cool. The proclamation for Patricia is going to be read at this Monday's board meeting, so that's very cool. Got accepted. Standing updates, wildlife enhancements. Vanessa, you want to talk about some of the work you've been doing?
So I guess I also just really need to clarify. I'm not exactly sure what you all want me to do, but I'll tell you what I've done. I just did some research on my own about what some of the recommendations are as far as Boulder City and Boulder County and even the state of Colorado when it comes to raptor nest sites and their habitats and buffer zones for protections and when they nest and when it's recommended to close areas if they're too close to the nest, that kind of thing. And then this morning, I was able to talk to Will Keeley, and he's a wildlife ecologist with Boulder's Raptor program. And he was great and really excited that as a town that we were looking into this. And he just answered any question I had and gave me some more contacts with Boulder County and even with the state. But I guess kind of the way I'm thinking about it is there's 3 different ways I'm looking at it. I guess we can look at how we might want to protect these nest sites and the habitat. We can look at how we want to educate people around them. But there's a balance with that too, because it's kind of like, okay, we want to educate people about what we're doing to protect these nests or that the nests are there, but you can't let everybody know because then everybody will go out and disturb them because they want to see it because it's cool. And then there's also just kind of that there are rules about it, so it's a little tricky too, like saying, I know where this nest is because there's laws.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I just don't know where you all want me to go with this. They have, a lot of towns, Boulder County, Boulder City towns, they have a volunteer group of just citizens that are interested in raptors that just kind of know where the sites are and they monitor them and see what the birds are doing, and then they make recommendations about any kind of buffer zones that are needed or any kind of closures. So he kind of recommended maybe that we could do that with 5 to 7 people. And, I know where there's a lot of sites, but I'm sure if I just asked around, I'd come up with some more. I don't know. I just don't know what direction to go.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we have some very interested folks in the Hodgson Harris Reservoir area that are very into the bird population over there, that actually might be a good group to leverage that might be interested in other areas as well.
Okay.
I mean, all I was going to say is that, you know, all we're trying to do is figure out ways that we can encourage more wildlife within the community. And I think what you're
Okay.
talking about is exactly that. And I think you've gotten further than we have in the last 2 years already with the research you're doing. So I think you're right on track.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd say,
I'd say we figure out how to run with that. I like the volunteer.
Okay, so how do
Or
I?
that's one, I mean, we don't have to decide tonight, but it sounds like
Sure.
you're on the right track. And,
Okay.
you know, maybe next time we could talk about it some more and figure out if there's an action there, but I think it's great.
yeah, we could add it as more of a, rather than just an update, we could put it on the actual agenda. If you have ideas for actually trying to, I think what we'd want to do if we're going to reach out and build some type of volunteer group, we'd want to have kind of like a mission for what the group would do, or kind of parameters for what we're looking for, and we could talk about that. If you have kind of a baseline for what's in your mind, we could kind of kick around.
I do. I
And
used to do that for the city of Boulder, so
So yeah,
it's been a long time, but I remember what I did, so. And
so I mean, that's perfect. If we could basically add that on the next month's agenda then, and talk about what it would mean to be able to pull that group together, and then we have to run it by the board to make sure that that's something they're okay with us moving forward. But if we kind of pull together a plan and kind of have something solidly built together that they can understand easily, we could, I'm sure, get on one of their agendas and present it to them and
Okay.
get their feedback.
And then, do we have any ideas what we would then do with the information that the volunteers would give us?
I
For
mean,
example, if they said, oh, this trail is going to be put in too close to a nest, or we're concerned about the construction going on because it's too close to a nest, are we going to be able to handle some of the feedback or you know, advice or what they're asking or
Yep.
telling us?
I mean, everything's a data point, so whatever data can be used to help make better decisions, I think is useful.
Okay.
I imagine we'd probably use it the same way that the city and county of Boulder would use it, and where they take that citizen information and figure out whether there are any solutions, whether it's construction that's impacting it, and
Okay.
I mean, ultimately, we'd be taking in all the data points, talk about it as a group, and then make a recommendation to the board, who would then act on it, right?
yeah.
So, I mean, I would say, yeah, I mean, our initial point would be, you talk about them in these meetings, and then if there's something we would want to act on, we'd make a recommendation. So, I mean, I think that's a useful aspect of what we could collect.
And at the very least, we'd be kind of collecting data on what we do have in
Right.
town and getting kind of an inventory of our species, and I think that would be useful, just so we have a better idea of what our wildlife activity looks like.
Okay.
Does the group recall the iNaturalist survey by Boulder County a couple of months ago? We kind of distributed it amongst ourselves, but when we found out about it, it was too close to when it was going to be implemented. And so we sent it out, but it wasn't a big push that we did, and we were talking about doing it next year. That might be a really handy resource for you. And if it was a Raptor type program with only 7 people like you were talking about, you could probably do a closed group on iNaturalist. And then, you know, when you observed, you put down a geolocate tag, and you could take a picture and it'll pop it right onto a map for each other to see. And then when you're out in the field, you can use your phone and document it the same way. And also, there was a lot of species tagged in Superior as a part of that Boulder County effort.
And that was the study where it was just everyone did it for like a month or something, and just as much.
That's right, I remember that now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have permission then is it okay for me to contact people at Boulder County or even at the state level about wildlife, about the nests, about what they would recommend? They've even, Will even offered to come out and look at the sites that I know about and give us ideas. And there's one that I'm thinking of that so it's in our city, but then their foraging habitat is across the street, and then it's not our city. And so that was one of the reasons why I wanted to ask Boulder County to.
I mean, I think when we're reaching out and getting information from people, I think that's okay. I think saying, I mean, just as long as you're saying, hey, I'm part of our open space advisory committee and we're trying to come up with the structure for a program and.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
because basically that's what it is. Like Colorado State has their ideas, and then the county does, and
Yeah.
then from that, each town seems to come up with their own ideas, which is why Boulder's completely different from Boulder County.
Yeah, I mean, that's just due diligence to try to get the best program
Mhm.
together. I mean, Sandy, do you see any concerns from the board level asking questions about that? Allison, do you have any concerns?
As long as you're not committing us to anything. I don't think there's anything, which you can't really do because you're an advisory committee. I don't see any problem at all.
But I think this idea of understanding both their nest environment and the foraging environment, I'm sort of imagining a multicolor map that where we could basically have this information for the town that would inform, even after we're all done being on these committees, that they would have basically this information that they could take into account in any sort of future planning, be it development or trails or.
Yeah.
Seems like a very, really valuable thing to
I mean,
do.
I love the idea of providing, just as a private citizen, of providing more information about the raptors in our community, because we have a lot.
Mhm.
I think we have a lot more than most communities. And I frequently have questions. In fact, I posted one over the weekend because we had a hawk hanging out at the summit, and we didn't
Yeah.
know what to do about it because we didn't know if it was sick or hurt. Or what. So I think the more information we can provide as an open space advisory committee, that's actually a valuable resource to provide to our citizens. So I think the more information you can collect and provide to our citizens, we got a website.
Yeah.
And,
That's true, actually.
we could certainly use the Open Space Committee's webpage to provide more information. I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion and my opinion as a trustee, but I think our website's underutilized for things like that. So.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I feel like people are interested in the community. You see it a lot on social media, people posting cool pictures about hawks they saw in Rock Creek or wherever, so.
Yeah. And man, now that I think about it too, if we get baselines for where they are and numbers or anything, we can track it going forward. If we can start to see dips or different patterns and see how, whether it's development that's impacting it or anything that can help us make better decisions with land use and whatnot going forward, that'd definitely be valuable. Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Rocky Mountain Greenway.
Yeah, so I've got a few things to talk about. I was unable to attend last month's meeting, but I just want to kind of reiterate, if it wasn't brought up, that new trail alignment was sent out. I think I sent it to everybody on the committee. I think I have all our new committee members on here, but as always, it's surprising how often that trail alignment changes. My general opinion is I think they're going in the right direction on the trail alignment, but we'll look and see how these develop. Circulated via email, Ryan and Sean both sent something out. I got the same email as well about the comment period for the soil sample and analysis plan runs through August 24th. So the draft plan is out there. Encourage everybody to read through that and see if there's anything that you'd like to add comments to. I mean, the more input they get, the better.
Sorry, what was the date that it's through?
August 24th
Okay, thank you.
is when the comment period closes. They refer to it as the SAP, the Soil Sample and Analysis Plan. Just today, and I haven't got a chance to read this, but I wanted to point it out. I'll send it out in an email to everybody in the Rocky Flat Stewardship Council update, which was from the July meeting that happened about a week ago. There is mention of a podcast. It's called Changing Denver. It's a podcast series on Rocky Flats. I've not had a chance to listen to it, but it sounds intriguing, and I probably will listen to it in the next week or so. But it's a resident from Denver has been researching Rocky Flats, and has produced a podcast focused on the history, cleanup, closure, and long-term health impacts of Rocky Flats on neighbors and visitors to the refuge. So I'm going to give it a listen. I'll send out the link to it. Everybody else, feel free to take it in and get your opinion on it. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to listen to it, but I'll forward out the email with the other notes from the stewardship committee. And the last thing to say is that the next Rocky Flat Stewardship's Council meeting is on September 17th. These are typically like Monday at 10 a.m. So if there's anybody that has the luxury of going to a meeting on a Monday at 10 a.m., feel free to attend. I can't ever make those. So.
Yeah.
That's all I have right now.
Okay, and we did get some more new information. Turn off lights so we can look at the map. Patrick forwarded this over to Corey and I earlier this week, and Allison just handed it over to me. So the county responded to our 2017 open space and trail requests. One of the things, and we'll go over this at our next meeting, our requests for 2018 are due by July 18th of 2019, so we have a few more months to get that done, so we'll put that on next month's agenda. But one thing to note, we had asked for Colton Trailhead improvements. The county's response to that was that planning efforts underway to have this section of the trail designated as part of the Rocky Mountain Greenway and also have this section of the Colton Trail improved as part of that project. Funding has not been identified at this time for design or construction. Does that align with the trail, the greenway trails that you saw? So
Yeah, I believe the major change from the previous version to the version, and I'm speaking off memory, so I could be incorrect, is they went further east. So they were running, I believe, even on the east side of Indiana, coming up to the north, and then cut across much further north than we've seen proposed trails in the past. If I recall correctly, there still was the underpass connection kind of in there where the bend in 128 is.
yeah, so and Patrick said he called the Boulder County to ask them about it. Here, his words. I reached out to the county, and it sounds like the plan is to route the Greenway Trail from Highway 128 north using the Colton Trail before connecting with the Mayhofer Single Tree Trail.
So basically the Colton Trail comes down to that corner,
Yeah.
and there's a gate and a small parking area there. And so right after that curve, that's a significant downhill. And so I think the plan is to go under the highway about where your mouse is.
Yeah, that's what the flap
To
grant's
the-
going to be for.
Colton Trailhead, and then up from there.
Okay. So,
Is that where they were gonna put the visitor center too, on the south side of 128, right near them?
I think it's a little bit south of 128, like,
Near the
eyeballing it from
windmills.
their map, maybe a half mile or something like that.
yeah, I don't remember well enough. I haven't looked at that map recently enough. So, just something.
So Joel, but it'll loop more around. I mean, that's not helping with the connection from over by Westminster. It's really, right, because it would still go through the preserve and then kind of loop around that way and then connect in. Is that
Correct.
what you're saying? So it'll
Yeah.
kind of skirt Candelas, come up by 93 and loop. Right? I mean, maybe not all the way up to 93, but more around the hot zone.
Yes, yeah, they pushed it, I mean, it used to kind of run right through the heart of the preserve, and they pushed it to the east and made it go much more north-south as opposed to running at a northwest trail orientation.
Right. We were still hoping to get some sort of cutoff on the other side, by Indiana and 128.
Right.
So if we get it, great. If not, this is still a good outcome.
Yeah.
The one thing that remains constant is this is a very fluid situation. It changes month to month, week to week, and, I mean, you've seen, any time that things start to move forward, there's a lot of opposition and back and forth.
Well, I think it's been since our last meeting that the town filed their lawsuit as well. So.
I think it was right before the last meeting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's right. So, Okay, so this is something that we'll discuss further at our next meeting. We already talked about Shan. And then here, what I've got on the agenda right now is the pros newsletter bullet items from last month. We were going to just talk about what items to put on this month, but they actually needed our bullets already. So we kind of cut the bullets down, and it's very similar to what we have on the list right now. But we've already submitted it. So.
But I can read them to you if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the first one is the same, very similar. Per OSAC recommendation, the town is commissioning an ecological study of the Hodgson Harris Reservoir to identify mitigation strategies for identified risks that could impact the rehabilitation of the ecosystem. So we changed exploring to commissioning on that statement. One word. Looking forward to Chili Fest on September 8th to talk to residents about open space and trail issues. Look for details soon about a town-wide cleanup event. And OSAC will be sending a member to the Colorado Open Space Alliance Conference on September 10th through 12th. So we have.
Is it in Summit County again?
It's in Grand
Grand
Junction.
Junction this year.
Do we want to, on the townwide cleanup event, do we want to include the date on that specifically, or is that included elsewhere in the newsletter?
We probably should have. We had to do these pretty
Oh, okay,
quick.
that's right.
Yeah.
I forgot
It
that
was-
part. You said you already
No,
submitted
it was.
sorry.
If we would have had this meeting, it would have been a lot easier to call it what we were going to call it and
Got
put the
it.
date. It just, yeah.
I'm guessing that the National Weekend of Service has the newsletter actually been sent out yet? I don't think I've seen it.
I don't think it has, and we met today about rebranding, and I wanted to have approval from you guys first to see what you thought about it, and so I'm going to try to get it in there.
Perfect.
Awesome.
And then they also massage it a little bit after we write it, so that sounds perfect.
Yeah. All right, so that's all from our official agenda. Does anyone have any questions, comments, topics, anything for the good of the order? All right. In that case, we are adjourned.
All right.
Whoa.